Ed Markiewicz here, co-host of the Rare Book Cafe, the book lovers' rendezvous, where the topics are priceless and the conversation is free. How many times have you heard me say that? Here I am on a very fortunate 6-week vacation in Greece, Italy, and the Balkans. And while I'm traveling, Lee Linn will be hosting the show, but I'll be doing dispatches from the field. First stop on the trip is Athens. As you can see behind me, the immortal Acropolis, the immortal Pantheon atop the Acropolis. Well, I'll check in when I can. Not sure how often and not sure where, but I hope you enjoy what I'll be sending in. Enjoy the show this week, folks, and I'll be back soon. Bye-bye.
Moved from to St. Augustine, Florida.
How neat.
Okay.
So it's 3 hours driving distance, but you know, it's quite a different experience because St. Augustine is the oldest city in America.
And we are now live. And as you just heard, our usual host, Ed Markiewicz, is dialing in from Greece. And he is sort of stealing my thunder. He has doesn't seem to want to give up hosting the show. And so he has done an introduction to this week's Rare Book Cafe. As Ed told you, I'm Lee Linn. I'm the owner of the Ridge Books in Calhoun, Georgia. And we'll be featuring some of Ed's videos throughout the next 6 weeks as we can. But right now, let me welcome you to the Rare Book Cafe. We're the only weekly video program on the internet that's devoted entirely to books and the people who like them and collect them and sell them. And that's you. And that's also all of us here on the show. It's something that we enjoy as much as we hope you enjoy it every week. We're here on Saturdays at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern, which is where Gigi and I are. Are you in Central?
Nope.
You're in Central, aren't you, Larry? No,
I'm Eastern.
You're Eastern also. Okay. Okay. I keep forgetting that Ohio is almost just directly above Georgia, you know, which is, I've never realized that till my grandchildren started playing with maps. Yeah. And it's 5:30 Greenwich Mean Time, you know, so in case you do all of your time figuring on that, then you'll know when to find us. We're streaming on YouTube and Facebook, and you can also pick us up as a podcast as Rare Book Cafe Raw, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. So we're starting at 12:30 Eastern on Saturday. We're available just about anywhere you would like to see us or listen to us. And we hope that you will do that and that you'll post comments. We'll respond to comments as we can. We love to have suggestions on topics or people that we could have on the show. And so you can find us anywhere in the world, any time of the day or night. So this week we have these two wonderful guests, regulars on the Rare Book Cafe. Larry Rakow from Wonderland Books in Cleveland Heights. If I got that right, Cleveland Heights, Ohio. And Gigi Best. And Gigi, I know that Ed always put up the entire title of your establishment, so I've done the same on my computer screen, so I won't get it wrong. It's the Best Richardson African Diaspora Literature and Culture Museum, formerly of Tampa, Florida, and now of St. Augustine, Florida. And we'll be talking to Gigi about the move and how that's going. And I hope to see some pictures of the new establishment in St. Augustine.
Yes.
Later in the show, one of our favorites, David Hess, from Orange, California. We'll be talking about things found in old books. And I think he's going to have something that I sent him that I found in one of the books we talked about last week, one of the camp catalogs that we talked about. And the road warrior, Richard Mori, will be with us, I think. We don't know where from. We don't ever know. We've threatened to give Richard a Where's Waldo outfit so we could track him on the maps, but he'll be joining us. But first, last time Larry was on the show with us, he talked about the origin and history and popularity of Little Golden Books, which we grew up with, our children grew up with, and he's going to continue that. I think we're going to hear some today about the collectability of Little Golden Books and things that collectors should know. So Larry, we'll turn it over to you.
Sounds great, Lee. Thank you. You know, the last time around, we talked about some of the authors and illustrators who have appeared over the years, and especially at those beginning years in Little Golden Books, and really how they established themselves as one of the premier publishing efforts for children, really ever in this country. All of us grew up, no, not all of us, but many of us, boomers certainly, grew up on Little Golden Books. And so many of the major illustrators and authors, Margaret Wise Brown, Garth Williams, and on and on and on, did remarkable work for that series. But as collectibles, Little Golden Books have had a long, difficult time to reach respectability, due in part, perhaps, to the fact that that librarians really, when they first came out, discounted Little Golden Books as really ephemeral materials, which in a sense they were. I mean, these were 25-cent books that parents bought for their children, and the children drooled on and colored in and ripped pages out of, and was not the sort of thing that you usually found in libraries for children. But over the years, as the memories for Little Golden Books increased, as they became not rarer, but rarer in terms of collectability for just those reasons that we were talking about. So few of them made it through the grid in collectible condition, that a number of years ago, the very first guide to collecting Little Golden Books was issued by a guy named Steve Santee. And I remember walking into a bookstore one day and finding this soon after I had purchased a collection, a massive collection of Little Golden Books, and seeing the sort of prices that he was suggesting for some of these, and really started an interest in seeing where this remarkable U.S. publication both had come from and was going. This, by the way, is just some of my own Little Golden Book collection. It is remarkably complete and remarkably weird. I have spent many years putting together this collection of books that really shaped my childhood, all the way from the very first Little Golden Books, which actually came in dust jackets, as we mentioned last week, through the first 600 or so books and all the various iterations that came after them. You know, talking about that, there were originally 12 Little Golden Books published in 1942, but it wasn't long after that that the line expanded exponentially and started to create these remarkable spin-offs, many of which are highly collectible today. This is a book that many people will remember, Dr. Dan the Bandage Man. And over there on the balloon held by the dog, it says 6 real Band-Aids. Golden Books was one of the first to do some cross-marketing, so that here, when you open up the cover, is the title page with actually the original 6 Band-Aids still attached. You know, can you imagine, for instance, going into a store and finding something like this? A counter display for the same, in which Dr. Dan the Bandage Man was offered on top for 25 cents. And then for just a little bit more, you could buy a box of Band-Aids on the bottom. Or things like this, Margie's Little Lulu, a famous comic strip of the time, and her magic tricks. You'll see that Kleenex tissues are prominently featured, as part and actually as an important part of the magic tricks, things to make and do with Kleenex tissues. You open up the front cover, and there, laid into the front cover, is your own pack of Kleenex tissues. Or something like this, perhaps not as familiar as Kleenex or Band-Aids, but Tex and His Toys featured, you can see the die cut in the cover right there, an actual container of Texel cellophane tape. In addition to the books themselves, Little Golden Book started to spin off other things, among them Golden Book records, a little golden record. Here, for instance, we have The Golden Egg, one of the golden books, also Beethoven's Country Dance. You open it up, and there is the golden record, of course, bright gold. And you can see that the music provided for this was from Mitchell Miller. Many of us remember Mitch Miller on TV, and the CBS Symphony Orchestra. Also things like this, a lamp for a child's room featuring the 2020 lion, the 20 scrawny lion, and little golden puzzles. Here we have perhaps, as we mentioned last time around, one of the most popular, not only golden books, but children's books ever published, The Pokey Little Puppy, and he gets his own puzzle on the inside. So there were lots of special things that Golden Books did with their Golden Book line, including in the books more and more interactive aspects that children could actually play with. Here we have the little golden paper dolls. When you open it up, we see not only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different dolls, including the cat and the dog, but also on each page there were costumes to cut out for each one of those. Or something like this, the little golden ABC, which in the back, inside the back cover, had an actual jigsaw puzzle. And, you know, you might, as a collector, start questioning yourself and say, how did such a thing as this come through unscathed? I mean, this puzzle has never been punched out. All of the pieces are there just as it was when originally issued. So the original 12 Little Golden Books, and for the first several years actually of Little Golden Books, they relied pretty much on a well-known, well-documented, well-published series of titles, most of which were fairy tales or original titles that had to do with everyday life around the house. And it wasn't until a number of years later, perhaps even a decade later in the 1950s and 60s, that Golden Books started to mine the deep culture of contemporary issues, comic books, television, and the movies. Here are some of the things all of a sudden in the 1950s and 60s that started appearing. Comic characters like Woody Woodpecker, TV shows like Maverick or Party in Sherryland, and so on. Roy Rogers and the New Cowboy, one of the most popular 1950s TV shows, or Howdy Doody and his magic hat. These were very dissimilar to the original ones. And if you look in the upper right-hand corner, right where it says A Little Golden Book, you'll see that this is number 184. So it's somewhere down the line in the Little Golden Book. And another Rudy Kazooie joins the circus. There was early on a deep Disney connection that Little Golden Books formed with perhaps the most powerful entertainment company in the world. This is one of the early Little Golden Books. This is one with the dust jacket on of Walt Disney's Dumbo. But there were others that featured things like the shorts that Walt Disney did. Once Upon a Winter Time. Here's Walt Disney's Peter Pan and the Pirates, taken from the full-length animated film. And Jiminy Cricket, Firefighter. So we didn't have to stick with the actual Pinocchio story itself. They were using characters that were found in those to go and create things for Little Golden Books. And down at the bottom, you'll see a Mickey Mouse Club book and a very, very different kind of foil dust spine than the regular golden books, but these were considered part of the golden book line. Little golden activity books did things like this. Little golden activity books trucks, when you open it up inside, these are all die cut. You could punch out these trucks and put them together. Or colors. You'll notice here on the side, there's a little die cut in the side of the front cover where a wheel appears. You'll see red over here and red where the two rabbits are pouring paint into a bucket. As you turned that wheel, it would change from red to green to blue to yellow, and there's the wheel on the inside of the front cover. Or stamp books. This is another activity book. And on the inside are gummed pictures of various birds, in this case, which could all be torn out, licked, and then stuck into the book itself. But as you can imagine, again, from a collector's standpoint, finding these unstuck and in front just as they were published is a great thing. From the 1950s through the 1960s, suddenly the real world started to intrude on little golden books. We have books like The Good Humor Man. I don't know how many of us lived in an area where The Good Humor Man used to drive through. I did on Long Island outside of New York City. And every day he would come along in the ice cream truck and kids would swarm around it, and The Good Humor Man would go and sell us ice cream. Here's an interesting one, Visit to the Children's View. This was originally published in 1963. And here is one of the illustrations that appeared in the original 1963 edition. Just 2 years later, in 1965, wonder of wonders, Little Golden Books had discovered diversity. And suddenly there were Black kids in the illustration as well as white children. This happened throughout Golden Books as they were republished. And finally, identifying first editions. You know, there are certain ways in which we can tell whether a Little Golden Book is a true first edition, by which I really mean a first printing. There has seemed to be over the years, and I don't know, Lee, maybe this is something that we can discuss at length during another show, but it really irks me the way that people are referring to first editions these days, you know, true first edition, 34th printing, and so on and so forth. When I say first edition, I'm talking about a true first printing. Here we see a Little Golden Book, which is a true first, and actually on the back cover lists all of the Golden Books that have been published to that date. This is a 1942 one. This is one of the real first Little Golden Books, and there were 12 that were issued at that time. So looking, I guess, at the back of Little Golden Books is one way, not a definitive way, but one way of starting to track down whether a book is a first edition or not. Here we're going to take a look more closely at nursery songs. Here's Nursery Songs, issued in 1942, one of the first 12 Little Golden Books. This is the dust jacket, the paper jacket that's on top of the book. As we discussed last time around, if you take that jacket off, it has a blue spine, not truly a golden spine like we're used to seeing. And so this is another indication that it is an early, not necessarily a first, but certainly an early Little Golden Book. This is something that most folks who collect books seriously know, and it is one of the many ways in which true first editions, first printings are noted. Here's the title page of Nursery Songs, and we can see that the date 1942 appears on the title page. If we turn this page over and go to the copyright page, this is what it looks like, and wonder of wonders, there's the 1942 right there. So that not only for Golden Books, but for a number of publishers, if the date appears on both the title page and the copyright page with no indication of further printings, you are pretty sure that you're getting a true first edition. Here's a early Little Golden Book, my first book. This was one of the first 12 as well. You'll note that it also has a blue spine. Here's the title page. You'll see the 1942 here. When we turn the page, we see this. And this indicates that it is not a true first edition. Instead, we have a first printing in September 1942, ranging through a fourth printing in January 1943. So it can still appear as 1942 on the title page, but on the copyright page, it provides other information. Here's the real key for the majority of Little Golden Books. This is the final page of a Little Golden Book, a much later Little Golden Book. And you can see down at the bottom of the final page in that corner next to the boards is an A. This is an indication of a true first printing for most Little Golden Books once they got out of the dust jacket and blue spine era. If it has an A, it's a first printing, a first edition. If it has a B, a second printing, a C, third printing, and so on. I've seen things that are like RR, which means they've gone through the alphabet once and are already up to double letters. That's what to look for. And sometimes, depending upon how it was bound or not, that can sort of actually be under the boards. You have to sort of lift it up a little bit and take a look for that A. One of the ways of generally noting when a Little Golden Book was published was by the spine itself. We've just talked about this, but the earliest Little Golden Books from 1942 until 1947 all had that blue spine, and virtually all of them came in dust jackets. Later on, there was a very familiar but earlier golden spine. It was printed on a matte paper that is not shiny. And many of the really classic Little Golden Books from this era, 1948 and 1949, appear with this kind of spine. Soon thereafter, maybe as a marketing technique, the one that we're most familiar with, this actual golden spine with interlocking leaves, was introduced and kept for a long time, from 1950 until about 1965. And then finally, here is the latest iteration. These all started about 1965 as a much less intricate golden spine, more shiny perhaps than golden, and it was used probably through books that are published today. You can find out more by going to at least two excellent references on pricing Little Golden Books and all of the various other Golden Book spin-offs that came along. One is Tomart's Guide to Golden Books by Rebecca Grayson, an excellent book. And here's Steve Santes. We mentioned him earlier on Collecting Little Golden Books, a collector's identification and price guide. There are a couple of rarities that I want to talk about, and then we'll just finish this up. One of them is catalogs. This is one of my favorite Little Golden Book catalogs because it was issued the year of my birth, 1947, and includes some amazing things, including this. Oh my gosh, this is one thing I wish I had. I probably have to build another room onto my house. But can you imagine having a Golden Book display like this, the House of Little Golden Books? This was created out of wood and given to the largest Little Golden Book sales places. We mentioned Disney early on. I wanted to mention the woman standing on the left of this photograph. Her name is Lucille Ogle. And not only was she a native Clevelander, just given a little punch for my hometown, but she was a major, major force in the both creation and success of Little Golden Books. She worked first with the Writers and Artists Guild, which some folks who collect children's books might be familiar with, and eventually became the primary liaison between Little Golden Books and all of their authors and illustrators, asking them to create new things, giving suggestions for materials that needed to be created, and worked intimately with most of the major folks that contributed to the line. One of the things that I found recently, perhaps because her collection came back to Cleveland after her death, was something like this, Gene Autry and Champion, and you can see the Lucille Ogle bookmark in the book plate in the along the boards. And then something like this, also from my collection, that I just love. Duck and His Friends, one of the most popular little golden books by Richard Scarry. Scarry, by all accounts, was an interesting guy, had a very close relationship with his mother. And here we see a written tribute. It says, "I love my mama dear, and I am my mama's sweetheart, Richard." This was done by Richard Scarry and apparently given to his mother as a gift. Another of my favorites from my own collection. So anyone who wants to find out more about little golden books, Leonard Marcus is one of my favorite researchers, and he has done a remarkable job with a book called Golden Legacy. Much of the information, many of the pictures that we've been talking about during this time have come from that. So that is, stop sharing and back again. That's all I have to say today about little golden books.
Well, I have some questions.
Sure.
And one is, how many little golden books do you have in your collection?
It's embarrassing.
Do you know?
Of the first 600 that were published, I probably have about, I don't know, 580 or somewhere in that line, first editions of those. And many of those, as I mentioned last time around, really came from one massive collection that I purchased. I was very, very fortunate. But then the add-ons, all of the Disney books, all of the activity books, and so on and so forth, it probably numbers around 700 or so, not counting the big golden books and things like that.
I remember in the 80s, perhaps, McDonald's did a little golden books. My children had, got those, I know. And looking online this week, I noticed some of the latest ones are the Star Wars ones. And they're aimed at toddlers. And I guess, parents who've grown up with Star Wars and are now going through Star Wars again, with the Mandalorian and everything. Want to be sure that their babies understand the Star Wars universe as well.
Have to come of age in Star Wars. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was interesting. One question about the publishing: have they always been published by Simon and Schuster, or have there been changes in the publishing?
No, there have been changes. I don't have that information, at the top of my head. But the Simon and Schuster connection was maintained for a good many years. And it was interesting. Simon and Schuster had interest in children's books, and when they were approached by some of these significant folks who wanted to get little golden books off the ground, they really saw this as an opportunity to both foster their name and put the idea of Simon and Schuster into parents' hands. Because as we discussed last time around, when little golden books were introduced, 1942, an average book, children's book, cost between $1.50 and $2.50, which was a sizable sum for middle class or whatever families. And so the idea of having a 25-cent book with Simon and Schuster on it really expanded the brand and made Simon and Schuster a household name and it was a great marketing technique. However, that lasted for a good number of years, decades, I believe. And then finally Western Publishing, which was the actual producers of the books, decided, or Simon and Schuster decided to drop it, and they decided to take it up. And Western Publishing published for many years, and then it sort of morphed into Golden Books Publishing, who I believe does all of it right now, and their name appears on it. So it has transitioned. It has morphed one way and another over the course of decades and decades, but still with the same idea. I mean, in the way that Maverick was being sold to kids in the 1950s, Star Wars is being sold.
Star Wars is now. I have a little golden book of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And I got excited. I thought, I'll go see if I've got it first, but I had a 13 printing.
Yeah. And it is remarkable. I mean, these things were printed over and over and over and over again. Yeah. I as I was doing research for this, there are literally billions of little golden books that have been published over the years.
Yeah, and you talked about the kids drooling on them and scribbling in them, and a lot of them had the little book plate in the front, "This book belongs to," which was kind of an invitation to draw in this book, color in this book.
It was. I don't think that any of the publishers have thought about longevity as far as little golden books are concerned. Although, I mean, when you consider what they are, and the binding, you know, it is remarkable that so many of them have managed to make it through to this day. This was a kind of binding that was originated, I believe, in Sweden. They went and looked there for something that was both inexpensive, could be done, could be produced inexpensively, and sold the same way. And so it's merely, you know, 2 boards, a bunch of things in the middle, that little whatever kind of paper binding, and 2 staples. That's it. And so it's remarkable that they've lasted.
And the price today of a new little golden book is what?
Good question.
I didn't, when I was looking at the Star Wars ones, I wasn't paying much attention to the prices. Because they were being sold in sets and individually in, you know, various ways. So I'm not sure. Certainly not 25 cents.
No more.
That's a given.
I know I've seen ones with 69 cents. It wouldn't surprise me if they were 89 cents, edging up towards $1 now. But, you know, when hardcover children's books are going for $17.99.
Oh, I know.
$1 doesn't seem much.
I went to a Friends of the Library sale this week, and then took my grandchildren back, and the children's books were $1 for hardcover and 50 cents for paperbacks. And so we had a and one day on this show I'm going to talk about my experiences with the Friends of the Library sale. But the kids really did do well. They came home with a bag of books. And the final day of the final day of the sale, you could get a whole bag of books for $5. So
it's pretty amazing. We love our local libraries here too, and I haunt the library sales.
Yeah, you don't find much of real value. You know, you don't find.
We
don't here.
I will say that it's not often that you find something of real value,
but occasionally.
But every once in a while, something amazing will show up. So yeah, I love them.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Larry, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Is there more to do with Little Golden Books?
Well, there's always
more
to
do
do
new
with
topics?
Golden Books, and maybe we'll go and take up some other aspect of it at a later date. But no, I'm starting to think about what the next thing should be, and we'll see what that is.
Well, have a good trip to Colorado, and if you run across interesting books there, you know, send it in.
You know, when I think about Colorado, I went, you know, years and years ago, I went to the Rare Book School there in 1990.
Right, I did too.
Yeah, that was a great experience. And whenever I wind up in Denver, I think a lot about that. It was just a really seminal experience in getting up to speed with all this. Okay, Lee, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Later.
See you later.
I will. Bye-bye.
Okay. And now it's time for Things Found in Old Books from David Hess. He has some items today from the 20s and 30s, including my item, I think. And we'll go to him next and see what he has for us this week. And David will encourage you, when you find something in an old book, to send it in. Send him pictures of it. Tell him what you found. David?
Hello. This is David Hess from the Bookman of Orange with my latest broadcast on Things Found in Old Books. So let's get started with things that I've found this week, starting with this general surgery book from 1931. Inside this book are these 2 cards. One is dated 1928 and the other one's dated 1921. And the 1928 is a Orange County, that's Orange County, California, where actually I live, medical association in Fullerton, California. A special meeting of doctors will be held at the Orange County General Hospital, December 18th in 1928. And this doctor Dr. B.B. Mason of Laguna Beach, California, was invited to attend it. The one from 1921, also to Dr. Mason in Laguna Beach, California, is a special advertisement for influenza and colds treated with autogenous vaccines. So it's a card advertising the latest vaccine. So there we go. More get vaccinated. But I don't know about it taking care of general colds. I don't know if that ever was a thing. But anyway, so it would tell you what it do, tell you what it does, and if you want a dose, the fee is $5. I did a little CPI indexing, and $5 in those days is about $70. So for $70, you should get this new vaccine to take care of your influenza and colds. The other notable thing about it, it was dated to Dr. Burgess Mason of Laguna Beach, California, and that's all it says. Dr. Burgess B. Mason, Laguna Beach, California. No street address, no post office box. Just, there you go, doctor in Laguna Beach. Here's your mail. So I guess they knew each other pretty well back then. All right, in the second book here, Mere Mortals by MacLeod. The book is dated 1925, so we're stuck here in the 20s. Now, the things I found in the books I don't think are from 1925. I don't know, maybe one of them is here. We got this little guide here on how to open a new book. And you tell you how to stand it up, set it down, and press the pages through, and until you reach, keep pressing, smoothing the pages from back to front until you get to the middle, and you have it all pressed down. Now, I don't know if anybody does that, and I don't see kind of what the need was, but apparently that's what they thought in those days. How to take care for a book has a little blurb there on how to do that. And they're also advertising the Handmaiden of Sciences on the back. Sciences on the back. So I thought that was interesting in case you want to know how to open a new book. Just don't crack it open. You got to prepare it. It has to be, it's like a fine meal. It has to be prepared first. And in the same book, I found this little card for Overeaters Anonymous. Now, I looked online to see when Overeaters Anonymous started, and it looks like their first meeting was in 1960. So on the top part here, on the front part, you have the Serenity Prayer, and on the back it says, 1 day at a time, 1 pound at a time. So, and it's kind of aged. So again, there's no date on it. I don't know how old it is, but I did find it in there, and I did find it interesting. And then we have The Cup of the Sword by Alice Tisdale Hobart. This was published in 1942. It had 2 or 3 things in it. One, the simplest thing was this playing card, the Joker, with a little birdie on the back. I'm assuming it's a 1942 playing card. Also in the book was an advertisement for, oh Lord, a little bulletin, monthly bulletin, and the book of the month that they're advertising in this is The Cup and the Sword. So in there, and it also has other books that they're offering for sale, and most of them are from this era or earlier, the 38 and stuff like that. And they look more like kind of like family reading, nothing racy at all. And so that was in there. Also, finally, up front was this little booklet here. It says, "Don't be distracted. Keep your notes in here." It has a calendar from 1941 to 1942, and you actually fill the book with your little notes. I think it's for junior and senior high school people. It has other readings in the back for junior and high school publications for the kids to read. And all along the top are advertisements for books, junior life mathematics. So, and you fill in the notes. Unfortunately, no one bothered filling in any notes in here. It's just a cute little booklet from 1942. It was also in that book. And finally, another broadcaster on this show, Lee Linn, of the Ridge Books in Calhoun, Georgia, sent along this little note via email, and she sent pictures as well. I'll share it with you now. In a 1922 catalog for Camp Dixie for Girls, founded in 1919 near Clayton, Georgia, was a sheet of notebook paper dated April 8th, 1922. It shows the minutes from a meeting of a Girl Scout troop. The troop named itself the Thistle Troop and made plans for an Easter camping trip at Hills and Hollows. Along the way, they adopt a stray dog, which they also named Thistle. The writer talks about their chores and practicing signaling. They grew tired of work and wandered off to explore, even the dog. Camp Dixie remained along with Camp Dixie for Boys until 2019, when it was closed for the 2020 and 2021 seasons because of COVID. The camps are currently for sale. That was from Lee Linn of Calhoun, Georgia at the Ridge Books. Lee, I'm very grateful you sent that in. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to share it. And I want to thank you. If you guys have anything you want to share, please send it to me at oldbook@ebookman.com. That's oldbook@ebookman.com. And send along a little description of what you found and some pictures, and I'll be more than happy to share it. I look forward to sharing it. I want to thank you, and that's all I have for today. Until I see you next week, goodbye. Thank you.
We also have with us today Gigi Best of Best Richardson African Diaspora Literature and Culture Museum. She and her husband Skip have just completed their move from Tampa to St. Augustine, Florida, the oldest city in the nation. And she's back with us to tell us how that's going and to show us the pictures of her new place. So Gigi, tell us what's going on with you.
Well, right now we began on Thursday with our soft opening, and I just changed it to go until October the 2nd. And it was very interesting Saturday because we were getting people from all over. I mean, you couldn't even imagine. I have some pictures of where some of the people that they came from, different cities, different towns. That first picture on the right, that's Skip pulling in the carts, because one of the things we did is we had dollar hardbacks and 50-cent paperbacks on the carts. So, and you can see our name is over top of the door, and we're in a courtyard. So that's him going in at the end of the day, taking some of the carts back in the store.
So y'all are on a pedestrian-only street.
You know, technically, St. George is pedestrian only, and our address is St. George, but we're in a little courtyard right off of St. George.
Okay.
So when you see one of the pictures, it'll show to the left, you go out this fence, and then you're immediately on St. George. There's the fence there. So if you imagine opening up that fence, we're back in that area. So our address is St. George, but we're 30A. The big house that we're connected to, that's one of the oldest houses. But that house, the owner said it used to be a funeral home, but she was raised there. So the owners own, several buildings in this courtyard. And we love the courtyard because if you see the little black box there, we have jazz playing, and people can come in And you were talking about chess, and you see we have a chess table out there, and people can just come in and just sit down and play chess whenever they want it. One gentleman was really excited because they say that where we are now, that area has been empty for 2 years. So there was nobody in any of those buildings. And so one guy, he said, the gate's been locked. I just wanted to come back here and see what was back here. So we opened both ends of the gate, so we get a lot more walking traffic than we had. Even if people are using it as a pass through, we don't mind, because they'll see the books and hopefully stop and then also mention to other people.
So do you think there'll be other tenants there on the courtyard?
Well, there are now. In
there
fact,
are now?
there's a gentleman directly across from us, and he opened about the same time we did. And he sells like beach clothes, beach wear, things like T-shirts, things like that. And then there's another big house down the other end, which we heard was a museum. And that one person had all of those buildings in the courtyard. But I think it must have been maybe COVID that shut down a lot of them.
Well, I love the idea of the gates. It's always so tempting to open a gate and find out what's behind there.
Yes.
I think even more so than if the gate is open, that you are really drawn to close the gates.
And it's locked. We have a combination lock on both ends. And so when we leave at the end of the day, we lock the front gate. Right. But the gentleman who sells the clothes, he said he was there till 9 o'clock. And
oh, goodness.
There's a gentleman who has been doing the ghost tours for 25 years. And he comes to the other gate and he says that it's distressing him what's happening in St. Augustine now, because after being there for 25 years, he feels that St. George Street is changing to a mini New Orleans. And to me, that's not bad. The day businesses will be there in the day and they'll go home. And then you have people singing, playing instruments, just doing different things. And so it's very lively. And in another way, it's very peaceful.
And the opportunity for businesses like yours to attract people who might normally not go to a bookstore, but might see yours and think, oh, I'll come back tomorrow.
Right.
And see what's back there. Well, tell me about the flags in front. I noticed you have an American flag, but what are the other flags?
We have right now, the image that you're seeing is St. George Street without any people on it. You never see that. That's early in the morning. We took that. But we have 3 flags. We have the American flag, we have the Juneteenth flag, and we have the African American flag.
Okay.
So those are the 3 flags you see out front. So we're right off this corridor. And I was a little leery about taking a picture with a lot of people because I didn't want people to think I was taking a picture of them. Right. But there are a lot of those around, because they're in the brochures, and the visitor center is right close to us and walking distance. Everything is just really there. And what we noticed the other night is you see the people on the little trains during the day, but at night they're horse and carriages. And so it's kind of like New Orleans and also Savannah and Charleston.
Right.
Yeah, it has that same kind of vibe, but I don't mind them having a late night, experience, because I think that's nice. And I think in Tampa, when we were in Ybor City, one of the problems was it became just totally nightlife. So all the other businesses didn't survive. It was all about the clubs, but this is a very eclectic mix.
Well, I've done the tram tours and stuff at St.
Yes.
Augustine in the past, which was a lot of fun because you could get off and get back on wherever you wanted to. You didn't have to
Yes.
stick
Yeah.
to
People
a
use them a
schedule.
lot.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I know we used to go to Wolf's Head Books, when it was in St. Augustine.
Yeah, Wolfhead closed. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a great bookstore.
It
a great
was. It
bookstore.
was.
Yeah.
And the picture on the right now, that's Skip, and that's two of our customers that came on Saturday. And this gentleman was learning a lot about the culture, and he's in the Navy, and that's his wife. We got a lot of military people there that day. Jacksonville is not far away.
Right.
It's like about 40 minutes. So we get, and there were a lot of locals, not only people long distance, but we met several people who say, we just come down in the evening and come down and walk around when the sun goes down. So that's what we like about it. Now, when you talk about people coming a long way, this gentleman here was from Bogota, Colombia.
Wow.
And he had been doing, I guess, going to different places. And he came in and bought Truman Capote, a collection. And that's what we found out here, too. We had a reenactor, and he came in and we had some small books on the Historical Society. And we had, they were printed in 1930. So he was so happy, young man. I think he said it was 25. He looked like he was about 19. And then we had some young ladies even come from Tampa. It was 4 ladies who stopped by, young ladies. 3 of them were in college. And my phone wasn't working right. And they took a picture and they were going to text it to me, but I never got it right or something. They must have typed in the wrong number. But he was so excited, this young man here, and spent quite a time in there. On the now you see where we have the Gullah Geechee pictures, famous artists, Jonathan Green, John Jones, and then we had some calendars. And I was walking down St. George. And so there was a gentleman and his wife sitting on a bench, and she looked like she was so hot, and she was wiping her forehead and everything. And I said, you need to come into our bookstore and cool off. So the husband came, and he was a pastor. I don't know if he was a pastor, but he was very close to his church, and he found we have some calendars, but now it's towards the end of the year, so we just half priced them, and they have beautiful pictures, so people could use the pictures. So we have those over there too.
Well, the shop looks great.
Thank you.
It really does. And I have some good friends in St. Augustine, so I'm going to try to work out a trip to come see their new condo and come see y'all too. I don't know when. It's a drive from Calhoun,
Calhoun, Georgia.
It's a drive, but I'd like to do that, and it's always so much fun to have you on, and it's going to be interesting to see how things progress with the clientele that you get, and if it's going to be a different. Like the customers are going to be buying different things than they would in Tampa.
Yes.
That will be interesting to see, because I know what we found, at book fairs is we don't ever know what people are going to buy. And then we go to a book fair.
No.
We just don't.
Yes.
So that should be interesting. But as always, we're happy to have you with us. And
thank you.
We'll see you again soon.
Okay. Y'all take care.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one. And I'll see you soon.
Okay. I think we're still looking for the Road Warrior, but maybe not. Maybe we don't have him this week, but we'll look forward to having Richard whenever he does tune in from the road and tell us where he's going and what he's found and what he's sold, and give us a picture of what has become a very active book scene up in New England as things have opened back up. He's been very fortunate to be able to participate in shows that here in the South we have not had the opportunity to do. So we'll look forward to hearing from Richard again. For several weeks now, we've been talking about favorites from the members of the Fourth Sunday Book Club in Calhoun, Georgia, my book club. And this is our wrap-up week. I have a few more books to share with you, and then we'll be posting the final list of favorites to, I think, the website. And you'll be able to see what we've been reading and what we like. If you've been watching us, you've noticed a couple of trends. One is towards Southern writers, and the other is toward humor. And Roy Blount Jr.'s book, Alphabet Juice, which is about words and their history, their how they're used, how writers have used various words. It's both an educational and a very, very amusing book. And the book club has always had several English teachers and English teachers, other teachers, an editor, people who are very interested in words. And so this was a book that was, it didn't appear but on one list, but it's a book that we all enjoyed a great deal. And in fact, we've enjoyed a lot of things that Roy Blount Jr. has written. Killers of the Flower Moon. This was a story that was a true story that was based on murders of Osage Indians who had land that oil had been discovered on, and the greediness of developers who wanted to buy their mineral rights, and people who were killed over these, and how the FBI in its formative years became involved with the with trying to figure out what happened here. It is a fascinating story. It is another story of how the rights of Native Americans were abused, and I think is an important story. It's also interesting about the FBI agents and how that came about as well. But it appeared, I think, on two of our members' list of favorites. Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf wasn't a real favorite for a lot of people, but we have a couple of members who enjoyed it a great deal. And if you're a Virginia Woolf fan, it's one that you should not miss. And it has, of course, been made into a movie, and you can watch that too if you get bogged down in the book. But it was one that appeared on, let me see, I think just one list. But it's a book sort of like Pride and Prejudice that one group who really liked older fiction liked, and of course it's not as old as Pride and Prejudice, and a group who prefers more modern fiction, though it sort of borders on modern fiction, weren't as fond of. Oh, this doesn't have anything to do with the book club, but that's okay. A few days ago, I went to the Friends of the Library sale here in Calhoun, and you go because you hope sometime there's going to be something fabulous, just begging to be taken home for $1 or $2. I like to read mysteries, and this was a selection of $2 mysteries that I brought home with me. And at another time, we'll talk some more about the things that I brought home from the Friends of the Library sale. But this was my little personal stash. Pride and Prejudice, we've already talked about. It appeared on 2 of our members' lists, and we've discussed, how we felt about that. Okay, Rainey is another one of those Southern humorous novels. Clyde Edgerton and Roy Blount Jr. are friends and play music together. And several years ago at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution Decatur Book Festival in Decatur, Georgia, I sat in on one of the workshops where Edgerton discussed his latest book, The Bible Salesman, it was his latest book at that time. And he and Joy Blunt Jr. was there, and they sang and played guitar and banjo together a little bit, and that was a lot of fun. Rainey and another novel, Walking Across Egypt, are laugh out loud novels of people in North Carolina. The characters in Rainey, some very fundamental religious girl who marries someone who's not quite as fundamental, and what ensues from that. And it is funny and a very perceptive look at people and their beliefs and how they behave. And Walking Across Egypt is another one that of Edgerton's books that's just a lot of fun to read. And it only appeared on one list, but that's okay. We enjoyed reading it. Class of 65, you may recall me talking about writers that we had come to book club, and Jim Auchmuty was one of those. And this was what happened to students in the high school in Albany at Georgia, the class of 65, and what happened in subsequent years, and how students eventually came together and began to understand each other. And having Jim was a real treat, and it's an excellent book, from that civil rights era. I mean, he wrote it recently, but about that era. I think a lot of you have seen The Help, the movie, and this is another based in the South. Some of it extremely funny, some of it very poignant, some of it uncomfortable in the revelations of how African American maids were treated, but was a book that we enjoyed very much. It only appeared on one list. No, it appeared on two lists. I see, and first editions of this, which were this was not. I bought a first trade edition of it at the Friends of the Library sale. I don't have it at the moment, but it was published earlier. A very small press run, and so first of it can be fairly hard to find. But it's and the movie was pretty accurate to the book, and was very good too. We have Wolf Hall is the first of a trilogy of books set in the time of Henry VIII. This that deal with Thomas Cromwell and his rise to power under Henry VIII. The others are Bringing Up the Bodies and, oh goodness, and I don't remember the name of the third one, but this one was made into, it was a winner of the Man Booker Prize in England, and then it was made into I think it was a TV, several episode. I don't remember exactly, but it is, if you're interested in that time period, it is an interesting look at something other than the 8 wives, which I think is what we tend to focus on more. I mean, certainly they're in it, but it's a very interesting look at the rise of Cromwell. Okay, we're back to the first one. Out of the nearly 140 books that we've read over the past 18 years, over 40 made it to the favorites list. Some members listed one book or one author. Others listed as many as 8 or 10. And so we have a long list, which shows, I think, several things. One is that we're interested in a lot of different topics. In spite of the number of Southern writers, it was a broad spectrum of books. And I'm going to just point out, I will go in and tell you what the ones that appeared on the most lists. This doesn't necessarily mean they were the book club favorite, because a lot of people listed, say, 8 books and said in no particular order. The Kite Runner received 4 votes. And I think part of that, at the time that we read it, it was fairly new. There was a lot of discussion about the plight of, particularly of women in Afghanistan. And it grabbed the imagination, very much so. 1,000 Splendid Suns, which we read then when it came out, we didn't feel had quite the same impact. But The Kite Runner was very popular with the group. Flannery O'Connor's works, both the novel Wise Blood and short stories, had 3 votes. Eudora Welty's, the novel Delta Wedding, and her short stories also had 3. And the book Nickel and Dimed, that followed menial jobs across the country and how people survived on working for minimum wage or less. And it had 3 also, as did Run with the Horseman, which we talked about last week. Faulkner's As I Lay Dying, and we also read read Barn Burning. The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers, another, of course, Georgia writer, had 2. Barbara Kingsolver's The Poisonwood Bible, 2. East of Eden, 2. Pride and Prejudice, 2. Huckleberry Finn, 2. Salvation on Sand Mountain, about snake handling, 2. Killers of the Flower Moon, 2. And The Help, 2. And then there's a long list of books that people gave, that one person listed. And in compiling the list, what I found was, I should have put that on my list. And I think a couple of people came back just this week and added books to their list. So I think that, on the whole, the book club has been a real pleasure for most of us. We haven't felt like it was a chore to read this book that somebody picked out and now I've got to read it, and which I know is sometimes true in book clubs. But it's been a pleasure. And this Sunday night, that would be tomorrow, we are reading Robert E. Lee and Me. And so for next week, we'll be able to talk about what we thought about that book, which should be interesting. It is a Southerner's look at the Civil War and his childhood hero, Robert E. Lee. And I found out in reading the book, he spent a good bit of time in both Social Circle, Georgia and Monroe, Georgia, and talks about things that happened there that I had no idea about. And that I probably should have, that people in Georgia should know that these things happened. So it should be an interesting discussion as well. So look for our list, and we'll see you next week with another new book. We told you earlier that our usual host, Ed Markiewicz, is in Athens, Greece right now, and he has posted reports from Athens that we're going to share with you in a moment. He went to Hadrian's Library. It's a ruin. It's on the north side of the Acropolis, and Hadrian was emperor of Rome from AD 117 to 138. He had the library built in 132. He was very interested in visiting all of the far-flung empire at the time. You probably know about Hadrian's Wall in northern England. And he was very interested in building. And I think Ed's going to give us some information on how many volumes or how many scrolls were in the library and on the layout of the library. But we do know that 3 churches were built on the site after the destruction of the library, and the remains of those are still there. The ruins are still there. Edward Gibbons described Hadrian as one of the 5 good emperors. I'm not sure exactly what that means. And that he was a benevolent dictator. I suppose all dictators should be benevolent, but most of them aren't. So we're interested in seeing what Ed has to say. And so now Ed will join us from Athens.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hadrian's Library. This was a gift to the people of Athens from the Roman Emperor Hadrian in 131 AD. There was only one entrance to the library, which was adorned by these 4 Corinthian columns. The library itself was 100 meters long, longer than a football field, and 82 meters wide. That's 9 first downs. The library itself had over 25,000 scrolls, 17,000 of which were in the far room of the library. It was also a place for public discourse, political and philosophical discussions. The library was destroyed in 237 AD by the infiltration of Heronium, and then it was rebuilt again in 435. Come on, I'll take you on a little tour. Greece is much like Rome, where cats wander and rule the city. Here we see some stones, not quite sure exactly where they were to be replaced in Hadrian's library. But if you look real close, you can see the feral cats of Athens. How many can you find? This is the top of an Ionian column. Could you imagine how majestic I would look standing atop it? Oh look, another kitty. This is the remains of the Tetrarch Church, which was built on the grounds of Hadrian's library in 426 AD. The library itself was destroyed in 270 AD by the invading armies of Turkey. Here you can see some of the mosaic floor tiles that once decorated the floor of this beautiful church. Along with cats, you could also find the stray turtle prowling the grounds of Hadrian's library. Here we see the east wing of the library. The library housed reading rooms at each end, and in the corners there were conference rooms where speeches were given, where classes were given, where philosophy was discussed. The arches on the back wall once housed statues. Nobody's exactly sure just how many books or scrolls occupied the library, but based upon the dimensions, it's believed that there were 16,800 scrolls stored just in this room of the library. Here in this corner of the library, we see the auditoria. The auditoria housed about 10 levels of seats. It had a slightly curved form. The approach to the seats was by 2 staircases along the long walls. The floor was made of marble with diagonal quadrangular slabs of colored, luxurious marble, while marble revetments decorated the walls of the halls as well. The north auditorium here is fully visible today, while most of the south auditorium is underneath the modern Adriano Street. That's quite a view for a cat. And here we see some more colorfully placed tiles on the outer narthex of the old church. Here we are on the edge of the Roman Agora. As you can see, the Acropolis and the Parthenon in the background. This was the dream of the Greek poet Gregory Corso when he first came to Greece, to Athens in 1959. It had been his long life endeavor to come to this city of the ancients. And from this very spot, in front here of the Tower of the Winds, he wrote a letter to his good friend, Allen Ginsberg. Dear Allen, your letter cards sound so rushed that nothing seems to be happening to your life of good accrue. Anyway, I am filled with Athens and know well its Tower of the Winds, the Acropolis, Agora, Stoas, etc., and say to you that you are too serious with the neo-goodness. Face it, Saints can unbuild. St. Paul, chasing away the gods of Greece, yet rebuild. What beyond saint? Go to Chile, Allen, be good and happy, dear friend. Serious, conglomerous, Thuseus friend. Love, Gregory. Quoted from an accidental autobiography, The Selected Letters of Gregory Corso, New Direction Books.
Thank you, Ed. We'll look forward to more posts from you as the weeks go by, and we hope you're having a great time on your trip. We're enjoying sharing it with you. That's all for this week. We'll look forward to next week. We have, maybe we'll have the Road Warrior, Richard Mori. We couldn't find him this week, but maybe we'll find him for next week, and I'll have a report on our book club selection for next week. And no telling what we'll have to share with you, but on Friday, you can check in with us at 12:30 on Facebook and YouTube for a little preview of the Saturday show, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. Bye, everybody.